I would like to introduce Nomonde Jonas. She's presenting a paper on profiling and identifying the status quo of credit access of South African smallholder farmers. Nomonde Jonas is a PhD candidate at Northwest University in South Africa, and she's worked in the financial sector since 2015, working in agricultural business and commercial banking at 3 of the country's commercial banks. She's currently employed in Agricultural Development Bank. And an agricultural economist graduate, she observed how difficult it is to finance smallholder farmers, which motivated her to understand the underlying issues and better assist smallholder farmers in obtaining credit accessibility. That is for sure a big issue, and I'm really excited to hear about what you have to say about that. So let's hear your presentation.
Good day, everyone. The title of the presentation is Profiling and Identifying the Status Quo of Credit Access by South African Smallholder Farmers. It is authored by myself, Nomonde Jonas, with Professor Mzuyanda Christian. The research forms part of the 5 research objectives for a research conducted in fulfillment of the doctoral degree in agricultural economics at Northwest University, South Africa. The presentation will be structured as below. However, each topic subtitle will be introduced as we go on to the next slide. So the next slide will be on the introduction. Agriculture is a crucial economic activity in Africa as it employs over 55% of the African population. Agriculture, therefore, remains an important economic sector in most African states. In line with developmental economic theory, the contribution of agriculture to most industrialized African economies, such as South Africa, is minimal, estimated at about 2.5%. However, in underdeveloped African nations such as Somalia and Sierra Leone, it contributes for about 62.7% and 61.3% respectively. South African agricultural sector is known to be dual in nature. That is, it comprises of developed commercial farmers and also subsistence or communal farmers. These sectors used to contribute to about 10% of the country's GDP in the 1960s. However, this has significantly dropped to below 2.5%. South African government, therefore, needs to ensure a healthy agricultural sector which contributes to the country's GDP, food security, social welfare, job creation, and ecotourism. Globally, most governments have shifted attention to enhancing economic growth through support of smallholder farmers. South African government is not an exception. However, smallholder farming sector has seen a very slow growth in credit supply as compared to your small and medium non-agri enterprises in the economy. Agriculture is heavily reliant on debt for investing on modern technologies to enhance efficiencies and increase production outcome. However, a large group of smallholder farmers experience high constraints when it comes to financing or obtaining credit from commercial banks. The research seeks to analyze availability of credit to smallholder farmers in South Africa. It also evaluated the constraints to finance while comparing credit accessibility for smallholder farmers compared to non-farming small businesses. Multiple methods of data collection was used, including conducting interviews, secondary data, and document analysis. Banks use predictive models, which are mostly based on the client's historic credit behavior to determine approval or a decline of a requested finance facility. The study will look at how models can accommodate smallholder farming businesses. The next slide will provide a background to the study. Studies conducted in Pakistan, Asia, highlighted that smallholder farmers Studies conducted in Pakistan, Asia highlighted that for smallholder farmers to grow into commercial or large producing farmers, access to credit is a necessity. Access to credit enables farmers to invest in latest technologies which will enhance productivity and the quality of the produce. However, access to credit in formal banks for smallholder farmers when compared to commercial farmers has been limited due to collateral requirements and also high borrowing costs. The studies also found that even access to credit in informal credit markets has been highly restricted for these farmers. Studies on credit accessibility in the African continent also shared the same common trends as those in Asian countries, which stipulates that credit facility for smallholder farmers will not only enhance their adoption to new technology, which can better the quality and the quantity of the produce, but poverty levels surrounding the population will be alleviated with an improved income received. The next slide will look into the objectives and also the hypotheses that were tested. The objectives were to profile the respondents and identify the status quo of credit access by smallholder farmers in commercial banks, to assess smallholder farmers' compliance to the determinants of credit application outcome from commercial banks. The hypotheses tested were that one, smallholder farmers' access to credit in commercial financial institutions has been unlimited. Second one, smallholder farmers had met the minimum requirements to enable a commercial bank to process and assess a credit application. The next slide looks into the research methodology. The study was initially going to be conducted on SAFTA members. However, SAFTA could not provide a database of their members due to the POPI Act restrictions. The researcher then interviewed farmers from a list of farmers with history of interaction and asked for referrals to other smallholder farmers. The sample size was 223 participants from KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga provinces. The sample size for an accurate prediction should be large. Studies show that a sample of over 120 can provide a good prediction. In addition, a large sample will enable external validation of the model. According to Blanco et al., to obtain optimal and stable results, logistic regression models requires a large data set. Data collection instruments. Data was collected using detailed, structured, and semi-structured questionnaire. The interviews with the participant farmers were conducted telephonically as the researcher relied on referrals from one farmer to the other. The next slide shows how the data was analyzed. Analysis method of the study was based on primary data collected from the participants in the two provinces. In addition to the secondary data from the Department of Agriculture and Stats SA was used to assess trends in credit accessibility between small non-agribusinesses and smallholder farmers. The researcher made use of various statistical softwares to analyze data. Factor and content analysis was used to examine the respondents' reasoning to access or lack thereof of credit in commercial banks. The method is used to capture significant factors that contribute to access by smallholder farmers, access to credit. The next slide will look into the results. So the results have been structured within the 5 C's of credit, which is character, capacity, collateral, and capital, and also conditions. So on the farmer's character, the research found that the average age of the farmer was 49 years old with 8 years of schooling and about 18 years farming experience. Farmers were predominantly females, as 71.75 of the sample percentage were female. The average farm size was about 11.15 hectares. 76.2% of the participants did not have a business account. Therefore, account conduct on those was not determined. The remaining 23.8% has business accounts, where 1.8 have had a bad conduct on their accounts, where they had a default or have been blacklisted, and about 0.4% have not had this debt cleared. A farmer's repayment capacity. In order to understand the farmer's repayment capacity, the study started off with understanding accessibility to a financial institution. The importance of having a business account is because a lower loan amount request can be scored without the need of financial statements or collateral. That will be an unsecured lending. So once accessibility to a commercial bank was established, loan received by banks was analyzed, and according to response from the participants, 8.5 applications were sent to FNB, 8.1 ABSA, 5.4% Standard Bank, while Nedbank received 4.5%. It is, however, of concern to the researcher that Land Bank only received about 1.3%, and this bank is a developmental bank focusing on developing farmers. So perhaps farmers are not aware of Land Bank and its purposes for developing farmers. Capital and collateral is one of the stated barriers into participation into credit markets through the main commercial banks in the country. So when asked if the farmers had tangible collateral when applying for debt, only 4% had collateral. And when it comes to conditions of granting a facility, it was 0.9% of the participants had unsecured credit facility, while 2.7% required a registration of a bond, and 2.2% there was no registration of collateral required, as the bank already had collateral registered under this business entity. The next slide looks into the conclusion. A huge percentage of farmers operate in communal lands where there is no title deeds. So this makes it difficult for farmers to approach banks for credit assistance. A lack of business account also plays a major role in banks not being able to keep track of income for farm produce. A lack of knowledge on critical aspects that the bank used to determine approval on credit request has contributed to farmers not getting credit. These components include financial record keeping, financial statements, and cash flow projections. It is therefore recommended that banks should offer a tailor-made credit products so as to include smallholder farmers. This will empower these developing farmers. A blanket approach is favorable for commercial farmers, as the farmers already have capital and also collateral and have established industry interactions for assistance. The research found that while most farmers did not apply for credit, those that did apply um, those that applied do not have access to credit, mainly due to lack of documentation required to process a credit application. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nomonde. Wonderful presentation. I would like to open it up to the audience. Do we have some questions for Nomonde? Or Richard?
Okay, thank you very much. That was a nice presentation. My first question has to do with, I have seen a lot of credit research being done in South Africa and in Africa in general. So I would like to know from you, what is so unique about your research compared to previous studies that have been done in Africa and South Africa in particular? Thank you.
Richard, thanks for your question. So, what I have found out mostly is that with the research that's currently on the market, sorry, on the journals, is that they focus mainly on the factors affecting a credit accessibility in terms of why can't a farmer get credit. So what's unique about this research is that we are actually doing a credit model, which is our main objective. So here we are trying to develop a model that will also take into considerations the factors that smallholder farmers face. Like, for instance, when you apply at a commercial bank for a credit facility, mostly they will require a title deed. So we just want to see that if we create a model that doesn't take into consideration a title deed, like for instance, if they take into consideration a letter that one gets from what we call Induna or Inkosi from the tribal lands, if the model can work, and then try to have a tailored made model for smallholder farmers and not use a uniform blanket approach that commercial banks are currently using.
Okay, thank you. So, Catherine, can I ask my second question?
Sure.
Okay, so that leads me to my second question. Like I indicated to the first presenter, this is the IFAMA platform, and it's more of managerial implications. And once you are trying to develop a model that will work for commercial banks, what is the managerial implication for results for bankers, for commercial bank managers? What is the managerial implication for them based on the results? What should they do to make sure they can give better products, develop better products for smallholder farmers compared to commercial farmers?
I believe that with the model that we are going to develop, okay, if the banks were to look into using that particular model in assessing a credit application for a smallholder farmer, it will actually not only benefit the farmer, but then also the bank as a whole, because now their range of products won't only just consider like a uniform one-way approach to say this is what we need, and if you don't have this, sorry, Mr. Richard, we can't look at your application. So I think it's gonna be more of focusing on looking outside the box and not just focusing on the current ways of work or ways of processing an application.
Thank you, Richard, for your questions. Do we have anybody else have questions for?
Yes. This is Hafiz Azhar from Pakistan.
Hi there.
Hafiz Azhar. I have a question.
Okay.
Yes. I have a question with Dr. Jonas that do you have any assessment about how we can improve the capacity of the smallholders? About your recommendation, specifically in developing countries?
Yes. One of the recommendation is also to look into educating farmers, because what we also found when we were doing the interview with the respective farmers or the participants is that a number of farmers do not have record keeping methods where, for instance, they will have record keeping to say, this is how much I produced this year, this is what I sold, this is what I did with the money. So which is one of the critical things that is required in a bank. So with the recommendations is that farmers will also need financial management teachings, and also what we will recommend is that instead of just focusing mainly on providing farmers with grants, which is what our Department of Agriculture mostly do, is to empower and also to put a certain level of responsibility onto farmers in keeping their farming records in place.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I see we have a lot of people in the room today that actually were able to get to Spain, including our symposium chair, Marianetta Fiora is here from Italy. We have guests coming from all over Africa, and of course Hafir mentioned he's from Pakistan. We have another member from Australia and another from China. That's really a global mix of people. Okay, we'll leave it at that. I want to thank you very much for your presentation. It was excellent.